Is there another Guillermo? ¿Cómo se envuelve con él? ¿Cómo le invita a formar parte de su proyecto?
Guillermo and I have been friends for 20 years. 20 years. And we're very close friends. We haven't worked together up until now because we didn't want to jeopardize our friendship by working together. But when he came back from The Hobbit and that project didn't go forward, I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to start a movie right away. I said, okay. What is the film that you want to make more than any other film? And he said, At the Mountains of Madness. Now, I was a huge Lovecraft fan back when I was in college. The first Lovecraft story I read, I think within 1 month I had read everything the guy ever wrote. So that was a natural. So I said, all right, let's do it. Let's do it together. And he said, well, what about if we get into a fight? I said, we're not going to get into a fight. I'll tell you why, because this is your baby. This is your vision. This is your dream project. And I'm just going to be along for the ride to help you and facilitate you and help get it made. I'm not going to stand in your way. I'm not going to try to tell you how to make a movie, because, I respect him completely. He's another filmmaker like Catherine that, I share my early cuts with, and he gives me notes. He shares his cuts with me. I make notes for him. It's a very, very close relationship that's now, over a 20-year period. And in fact, I've actually gone on record as saying there's only 2 people that I would produce a movie for at this point in my life: Catherine and Guillermo.
Downloading movies from the internet.
Well, I mean, if they're legal downloads from a download service and they're paying for it, I think it's fine. I think that illegal downloads are wrong. They're morally wrong, and they hurt the business. But I think it's also up to filmmakers to create something that is a rich cinematic experience. Here's an interesting fact that most people don't know about Avatar. Avatar was the highest grossing film, blah, blah, blah. It was also the most pirated film, which means pirate discs and illegal downloads, right? But because the film was seen as something that you had to see in a movie theater, that you had to see on the big screen, it was a rich big screen experience, even when people had illegally downloaded it or gotten a pirate disc, they still went to see the movie. It hurt its business, but it didn't kill its business. You see what I mean? So even though I think it's wrong, I also think that it's up to filmmakers to work against it by creating something special in the cinematic experience, and don't make movies that are designed to play, a little window this big. I think if you make a good movie, it will play in a little window this big, because a good story is a good story. But there needs to be more to cinema than that. And I think the day that I believe, or I feel defeated enough to believe that people only want to see movies on a little tiny screen, then I'm going to stop. Because, where does David Lean's, widescreen compositions fit in that formula? With little tiny people walking in front of the vast mountain range, you're not going to see the people, so the shot becomes nonsensical. So at that point, what you're doing as an artist becomes nonsensical. It's a waste of time. And so what you get is TV-style production, which is just talking heads. It's all talking heads. It's a script said by actors in a close-up, and that's boring to me. Not that I don't like close-ups, not that I don't like good scripts, but there's a lot more to cinema than that. There's so much to do and so little time. I've got movie projects that would take me through the end of the century if I could make them all. That's not going to happen, clearly. I like to stay curious. I like to challenge myself. By staying curious, I like to be involved in other things besides movie making. Heresy. Yeah, I have a whole other life. For 8 years, I did deep ocean expeditions. I did archaeology projects. I worked on space projects. I designed robotics. I had a company that built deep ocean submersibles and robotics equipment. I went exploring. I lived almost a kind of science fiction fantasy myself. You know, I was perfectly happy not making a Hollywood movie, and I could be perfectly happy again not doing it. So for me, anything that I do has to be challenging, has to be worth something at the end of the day, besides just entertainment, which includes my entertainment movies. And it has to be something that's personally challenging and is going to teach me something. I want to learn. I always want to learn more. And the cool thing about being a filmmaker is that, you know, once you get established as a filmmaker, you can kind of pick up the phone and call just about anybody. So if I want to talk to a scientist at some high-energy physics lab, I just have to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I'm making a movie about high-energy physics. You know, may or may not be true, but I could go talk to them, you know. So it really feeds that curiosity, and sometimes projects come out of that, sometimes they don't, you know. I went to the South Pole in 1994 to do research on the psychological effects of people being confined inside a base for months at a time, because I wanted to do something about colonizing Mars. That project never happened, but I went to the South Pole. Got a lot of cool interviews, you know. I don't know what's been officially announced yet. Tom's very excited about doing the movie. I've known him for years. I'd love it if he did it. So, you know, but no deals have been made. No announcements have been made, to my knowledge.
Please make a great movie. Thank you.
Well, you know, what Guillermo has in mind, what he sees is something that hasn't been, we haven't seen it in a long time, maybe never, what he imagines. You know, it's an epic adventure horror film. I mean, really painterly, really fantastically imagined. You know, most horror films tend to be pretty lean scare machines. And to me, horror has really gone downhill. And I'm not going to throw any specific movies, you know, under the bus, so to speak, but they've gotten just kind of cruel, and they're sadistic, they're about torture, you know, sawing people up and things like that. And to me, that's not horror. That's just sadism, you know. To me, horror is what Lovecraft did, which is it forces you to use your imagination, and it plays against the fears that exist in your id, in your subconscious, the things that chase you in your dreams, you know. And that's what Guillermo's going to do, and nobody's done that in a long time. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great movie. Okay, I don't know too much about the specifics of Presidente Calderon's program. I think any time that the government actually spends money to help with the arts in general and with filmmaking in particular, it's a good thing. It certainly doesn't happen in the United States. It used to be quite robust in Canada, where I'm from originally. You know, the Canadian National Film Board started a lot of young filmmakers. It doesn't happen in the United States at all. There you're on your own. And so I think it's great. I think it's a great thing. In terms of the documentary projects that I'm doing, of course, I'm sure you know that in between Titanic and Avatar, I did a number of documentary projects, and they were, you know, low budget, at least compared to my feature films, although they were well budgeted for documentaries. You know, I mean, I think that I've got some specific projects in mind, but I'm not going to be specific about them, other than to say that they're along the themes that I was talking about in my remarks of dealing with the you know, coming energy crisis, climate change, and the destruction of the oceans.